Hello book lover, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Kay and today we're doing part 3 of my bookshelf tour where I'm going one by one through every single book that I own, and we are going to start with the first shelf to shelf and a half of my historical fiction. So as I did last time, I am not going to be reading every single back of every single book that I own because that would quite frankly just take way too long. So I'm just going to try to tell you what I know about every single book as quick as I can, maybe read a little bit of a blurb if I've already read it, tell you what I thought about it, and if I would recommend it. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. This shelf, and this shelf down here, you can't see it, but these three are my historical fiction shelves. I love Christian historical fiction and then clean Regency romances, so there's going to be a lot of both of those on the shelf. There's going to be a mix of some other things in there, but just know everything is going to be clean or Christian. If I know specifically if it has Christian content, I will say so. If not, just assume that it is a clean book. And clean, for the most part, just means there is no spice in the book, no violent graphic scenes, and no cursing. The very first series I have sitting on the very top of my shelf is this right here. This is the Mark of the Lion trilogy by Francine Rivers. The first book is A Voice in the Wind, and then the second book is An Echo in the Darkness, and the third book is As Sure as the Dawn. I love this series so incredibly much. This one is, I would say, more so on the heavy side of content. There are kind of more brutal scenes in it. Given the time that this is taking place, it is a little bit more on the graphic side. In this series, it is taken place 70 AD after the destruction of the temple, and you are following Hadassah, whose entire family was persecuted and killed for their beliefs, and she is now in servitude under a wealthy family in Rome. It is not a Christian environment at all, and Hadassah basically just has to hide her beliefs. You're getting multiple points of view. Each of these stories basically follows a different character, but they all go together, and I just love them all. They're 5-star stories. These books have grown my faith. They have made me think so incredibly deeply, and I just highly recommend the Mark of the Lion trilogy by Francine Rivers. If you've never read it, it is such an incredible series. So this next author is Lynn Austin, and she is specifically a Christian fiction author, and she writes, I feel like, all kinds of different things. I've read 2 of the books that I own by her. I have read A Proper Pursuit, and this one is about a girl who heads to Chicago during the Chicago World Fair, and she has multiple suitors, and she's trying to figure out who she needs to marry, and she's staying with her aunts. All 4 of her aunts are just so incredibly wildly different in personality, and they are so much fun, and I really enjoyed this. I think I gave this a 3.5 star. If you want to know deeper my thoughts on this book, go to my previous July reading wrap-up because I do share more in depth, but all in all, it was a good time, and I would say the faith threads were a lot lighter in this book. The other book I read by Lynn Austin was All She Ever Wanted, and I think I read this one last fall. I think I only gave this a 4 star because there were parts of this that were just really heavy and hard for me to read, but this is one of those books that has just lived in my brain, so I feel like it's actually a 5-star book. But this book is so interesting because you are following a woman who is basically learning about the history of her mother's past and her grandmother's past, and it kind of is like a generational story, and she's really understanding like why her mother was the way she was. This book just grew me in so many different ways. Like I said, I continue to think about this book, unraveling the history and really understanding why she was raised the way she was and what led to all of those circumstances was just absolutely incredible, and the way that she found God later in life despite the way that she was raised. This book, I highly recommend it. With any of the books that I mentioned in this video, if trigger warnings are important to you, definitely look those up. Storygraph is a great way to do that, and also Goodreads and Amazon. This one, again, heavy topics, but it was so good. The next book I have by Lynn Austin, I actually don't remember what this one is about, but my friend Frankie sent this to me recently, and this is If I Were You. It is a Hall of Fame Christie Award honoree, and the snippet at the top says, Audrey sat in her own bedroom, sickened, and discovered that she still envied Eve Dawson, as she had all her life. She would gladly trade everything she owned to be her. In the wake of the war, Audrey Clarkson leaves her manor house in England for a fresh start in America with her young son. As a widowed war bride, Audrey needs the support of her American in-laws, whom she has never met. But she arrives to find that her longtime friend, Eve Dawson, has been impersonating her for the past 4 years. Unraveling this deception will force Audrey and Eve's secrets and the complicated history of their friendship to the surface. So we've got a friendship novel in a sense, but also that's kind of like very suspenseful. The next book I have by Lynn Austin is All My Secrets. This is a Gilded Age novel. 3 generations of women in one family must reckon with the choices they've made and their hopes for the future. So this is a New York 1898 book. I'm just gonna leave that one there. And then lastly, I have a duology by her that was highly recommended. This is one of my higher anticipated reads, and that is The Waves of Mercy, and the second book is The Legacy of Mercy. And this says, haunted by the unknown of their past, 2 women search for answers along the shores of Lake Michigan. So from what I understand though, that this book does have to do with the topic of marriage and differences in society and classes, but this isn't like a Regency like I normally read. This is taking place in the United States, 1897. Next, you will see a lot of books that are under this proper romance line. This is the proper romance label, and these are published by Shadow Mountain. So these are all Regency romances essentially. I might have some that might have a different variation of when it takes place, but for the most part these are the early 1800s Regency England, and I just love the Regency era because it just feels like a different time. In the Victorian era, which takes place after the Regency era, I feel like that's when things started to become more gothic and spooky, but also that's when inventions were really starting to come out, like more modern inventions. The Regency era just feels like a whole different time because there's not really much of that during the Regency era. I just love that. I love that it takes me to a different place, and usually the Regency era books, they are more lighthearted, but they can handle heavier topics. But for the most part, the banter, the couples, the yearning, I just love it so much. These 3 books that I'm holding right here, so the first one is The Secret of India Orchid. This is by Nancy Campbell Allen. I actually started this one a couple months ago when I was in a slump. I just kind of had a handful of books and I read the first couple chapters of each of them before I decided what I was in the mood. And this wasn't the one I was in the mood in, but it's one I keep thinking about because the first chapter was really interesting. There is this guy who, he's very much in love, and he really wants to propose to the love of his life. And as he's about to do this, there is this man who shows up and says, hey, there are these really top secret government documents that have been stolen, and you're the only one that I know that can find them, so I need you to go after this guy and find the documents. By the way, the love of your life, she might actually be a spy too. There is a lot that happened in that first chapter, but I definitely am super intrigued and interested to jump back into this one. And it's one that I just keep looking at and I'm like, I need to read that. It just sounds so fun. The Orchids of Ashthorne Hall by Rebecca Anderson. This one is on my fall TBR. Just look at that cover. It just looks super fall, ghastly, ghostly in a way. The top of this literally says, a ghostly estate, a handsome caretaker hiding a secret. And the intrepid Hyacinth Belle, which is the cutest name for a character ever. And the intrepid Hyacinth Belle who is set on solving the mystery of both. And that's all I need to know. This is 1887, so this is definitely that Victorian type of novel. So it's going to be a little bit more gothic and spooky. We'll see what I think. I haven't been the biggest fan of gothic and spooky, but I feel like if I'm in the right mood in the fall time, that this could work for me. The next author, and this is one of the three that I was just holding, but Joanna Barker, A Game of Hearts and a Heart Worth Stealing. So A Game of Hearts, I did read this and I really had a good time with it. This is about a lady who is an archerist. She loves archery and she's really good at it. The men in her area will not let her shoot in the local archery club because she's a woman. So she decides, I'm going to start my own archery club. The man that is involved with the other archery club happens to be her lifelong nemesis. So it's kind of that enemies to lovers, but it's not in like a mean, he's an evil kind of guy way. In the beginning of this book, it's like they truly don't like each other. Like they're not just saying they don't like each other, like they truly don't like each other until they get put in positions that their proximity is forced and they like each other. And I had a good time with that one. A Heart Worth Stealing. This is from that Proper Romance line, and this one is definitely the earlier Regency time frame. And this one says, Miss Genevieve Wilde, a magistrate's daughter and independent heiress, is determined to meet life's challenges all on her own, just as her late father had taught her. When her father's pocket watch is stolen, she will do anything to get it back, especially when the local authorities prove incompetent. If you're wondering how I've organized these books, they are just by author last name. So if it starts with an A, I stick them all in a category for A. If it starts with a B, they're all in a category for B. And I don't go so much as to alphabetically categorizing them like, okay, this is BA, BAC. Like, I don't do that. It's just, if it's all a B, I'm just gonna stick it all in a B category. The next book on my shelf is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. This is volume 1, and this is a book that I did read, and I thought it was just okay. But I listened to it with the audio, and I think the audio is fantastic. Like the narrator is amazing, but I just didn't get the point, and I listened to volume 1s and 2, so it is one that I think I might try to go back and physically read instead of listening to it, just because I feel like there was a lot that I missed. This book is about a girl who returns home. She's inherited an estate and it's in financial ruin, and that's basically it. From what I read. The next author is my darling, sweet, wonderful Pepper Basham. I love Pepper Basham so much. She is perfectly my cup of tea. She is perfectly my sense of humor, and I just adore her. I adore the banter. She always has some crazy, like, off-the-wall characters that will have me laughing until I'm crying in public. I just love her. Sense and Suitability. Obviously, this is kind of like a take on Sense and Sensibility. This one is about a woman with a scandalous past and an even more scandalous secret. She is a secret authoress, which is a big no-no. She swears off love until the man who broke her heart needs her help. What could possibly go wrong? So she is basically helping the man who she loves, who broke her heart, find a wife to help him save her estate. And Pepper Basham is a Christian author, so she usually has a lighter faith thread through her books, and I love that. But Sense and Suitability was just such a good time, and I still think about this book at least once or twice a week. It just lives rent-free in my brain. And then we have The Mistletoe Countess. In this one, it has like a little bit of a mystery in it. Grace, the main female character in this book, is one of my favorite main female characters written like ever, because she's just so like crazy. Like she is bubbly, she is smart, she is such a bookworm, like to an extreme level. I feel like her and I would have so much fun together, and we could do a lot of chaos. Like, I just love Grace so much. Can the wrong bride lead to the right romance? There was this man who was supposed to marry her sister, and then a big scandal comes out, so he actually ends up marrying Grace instead, because if he didn't end up marrying one of the daughters of, what is the term? I can't remember like what his technical like phrase is, but if he didn't end up marrying one of the daughters of this like guy, then a lawsuit could happen. And so Grace steps forth forth, and she's like, all right, sorry, my sister caught you in a scandal, but I'll marry you. And he's like, wait, what? And it's so fun. This is a whole series. I really need to get the other books because I for sure want to continue this because I need more of Grace and Freddie. The Spice King by Elizabeth Candom. This is book 1 of Hope and Glory. This is a Christian author. This takes place in Washington, D.C., early 1900s. As soon as I asked for clean and Christian fiction book recommendations like over a year ago, this is one of the first books that was recommended to me. I found a copy of it on Thrift Books. By the way, I buy like all of my books basically used. Like I hardly buy new books, but I found this for a couple bucks on I think Thrift Books. I really don't know much about this one. All I remember is the girl who recommended it to me when she messaged me on Instagram. She said, The Spice King, but don't worry, it's not that kind of spice. And I was like, okay, cool. And I actually really love this author's covers, and I have heard good things about this author. Gray Delacroix has dedicated his life to building an acclaimed global spice empire, but it has come at a cost. Resolved to salvage his family before they spiral out of control, he returns to his ancestral home for good after years of traveling the world. As a junior botanist for the Smithsonian, Annabelle Larkin has been charged with the impossible task of gaining access to the notoriously private Delacroix's plant collection. If she fails, she will be out of a job and the family farm in Kansas will go under. She has no idea that in gaining entrance to the Delacroix world, she will unwittingly step into a web of dangerous political intrigue far beyond her experience. I hear the word political intrigue and I'm intrigued. So that's The Spice King by Elizabeth Camden. The next book I have is Counted with the Stars by Connellan Cosette, and this is her Out of Egypt book. This is biblical in the fiction in the sense that it takes place actually in the time of the Bible. And if you've been on my channel, you know I've had some qualms with certain biblical fiction. I've had a really hard time with it. I've not read anything that is Old Testament biblical fiction, and I'm very intrigued by it, but also it's one of these books that I've been hesitant like just to unhaul. It's one of the first Christian book recommendations I got. Everybody I know who has read this book is absolutely in love with this book in this series, so I'm just not sure where I'm going to land on it, and I've been dragging my feet, and part of me is like, I just need to unhaul this book, but at the same time, so many people love it and so many people have recommended it to me, but because of some biblical fiction experiences I've had in 2026, I've just had my doubts about reading this. So anyway, if you can convince me to read it, please let me know in the comments. If you think I should just unhaul it, let me know. So this says, sold into slavery by her father and forsaken by the man she was supposed to marry, young Egyptian Kaya must serve a mistress who takes pleasure in her humiliation. When terrifying plagues strike Egypt, Kaya is in the middle of it all. Choosing to flee with the Hebrews, Kaya finds herself reliant on a strange god and drawn to a man who despises her people. So she's leaving Egypt with the Hebrews. The next book is an ARC that I received that I have still not gotten to, and that is A Deal with the Debutante by Chelsea Bobolski. She's running from London's Marriage Mart. He's running out of time to save his estate. Neither intends to fall in love, but their hearts have other plans. And the only reason I've dragged my feet is I feel like estate failing and woman who doesn't want to get married. Those two tropes I feel like are the two most absolute generic Regency tropes ever, and because of that I've just been worried I'm not going to enjoy it, that I feel like it's going to be just like a copy and paste type of book, not in like a sense that the author plagiarized, just that those tropes are like, you know, those tropes. And this is one of those books that a few of my friends have read and they've really enjoyed it, so as I was going through decluttering my shelf several weeks ago, it's one I kept because, you know, there could be a chance I could fall in love with this one, and honestly it's an ARC, so I really need to read this book. If not, it will be rehomed. The next book I have is A Bride in the Bargain by Deanne Gist. I have not read anything by this author. She just has a ton of historical romance books, so I don't know if she's clean or Christian. It says Christie Award winner, so maybe this one has some faith. This is by Bethany House, so I can maybe assume that this has faith content in it. The wedding is all planned. Someone just needs to tell the bride. That just sounds like a lot of drama waiting to happen. And if you know me, you know I love the dramatics and the hysterics in Regency and historical books. I love the drama, okay? 1860 Seattle. Redwoods were plentiful, but women scarce. Yet a man with a wife could secure 640 acres of timberland for free. Interesting. If that's like a true historical fact, that's fascinating. So anyway, clearly there's gonna be a wedding and the bride has no idea that she's gonna be getting married. The next book I have is Yours Truly Thomas by Rachel Fordham, and this is an author I have heard fantastic things about. This is from Revel, so I can hopefully safely say that there is actual Christian faith content in it. For 3 years, Penny has been opening other people's mail. Dead ends are a reality for clerks at the dead letter office, and she dreams of something more, a bit of intrigue, perhaps a taste of romance. When she comes across a letter from a broken-hearted man to his one true love, it becomes her mission to place this lost letter into the hands of its intended recipient. I just think that entire plot just sounds so sweet and adorable, and this one takes place in Washington, D.C., 1883. The next book I have on my shelf is A Proper Scandal by Esther Hatch. If you want my full thoughts on this one, I did just read this one last month, so go watch my July reading wrap up. But in this book, you are following a gal who is of marriageable age. She has a pretty hefty dowry. She's being blackmailed into marrying a man to pay off her uncle's debts with her dowry. She tries to create a scandal to get a wealthy guy to marry her, and of course they fall in love. I will say the uncle in this one was like really gross to me because he was definitely a womanizer. He made me very uncomfortable. Again, if you want my full thoughts, go watch my last video for July reading wrap up, but at the end of the day, I loved the couple in this book so much. This one is like mid to later 1800s, but it is in England. We have Edenbrooke by Julianne Donaldson, and if you're new to my channel, hello. This is one of my favorite books. Edenbrooke is the very first Regency romance I have read, and I fear that the bar was set so incredibly high with this one. There have only been a few that I've found that have been comparable to the feelings that Edenbrooke gave me. I actually will be doing a reread of this one this year because I love it so incredibly much. In this book, you are following Marianne, and she is just like totally bored of her life in Bath, and she gets an invitation to go stay at a fancy estate. She falls in love there, but she can't marry the man that she is falling in love with. That's all I'm gonna say. If you've never heard of Edenbrooke, you should read it. If you've always wanted to try Regency romance, but you've been kind of intimidated by the genre, start here. This book is so funny, laugh out loud hilarious, but it's got these heartfelt moments. This one will have you giggling and kicking your feet. I just love Edenbrooke so incredibly much. And that's all I'm gonna say on it. I love this book. You will hear me talk about it on my channel, and this will not be the last time you hear me talking about Edenbrooke. And I think finally, to end this video, because I've been talking for way too long, we are going to dive into the world of Sarah M. Eden. She is a clean Regency era romance author, and I absolutely love her books. I eat them up. I am on my 7th book of hers. No, I'm on my 8th book of hers, if that doesn't tell you how much I have enjoyed her books this year. They are pretty short, like 200 to 250 pages, so they're very quick reads. The banter that she writes in her stories between couples, laugh out loud hysterical. The character interactions are just so believable and lovable. The way that she writes depth though in hard stories while also weaving in lighthearted threads through it is just incredible. I love Sarah M. Eden so much. Yes, some of her books definitely get some miscommunication-y, but I don't care. I just love her books so much. The way she makes me feel for characters is insane. Let me explain to you a little bit about her series, because she has quite a few and a lot of them are interconnected. First, let me talk about The Gents. So The Gents, I don't have book 1. This is technically a novella. This is book 1.5. This is Snowdrops and Winterberry. I actually did just score the first book on paperback swap, so I'm very excited about that. This is the later 1700s, so this is before Regency era. I think it's like Georgian era, which I haven't read yet. Again, this is like a romance series, but there is one book in this series that follows an important person from a very important character in Seeking Persephone. So anyway, The Gents. You don't have to read this first. I haven't read this series yet, but I will go back and read it. I personally started my Sarah M. Eden journey with Seeking Persephone. Again, if you haven't been on my channel before, hello, this is my other favorite book. So Seeking Persephone, you are following a woman who is of a very, very, very lowly station, and she gets a letter in the mail one day that a duke, which if you don't know, a duke is at like the top of the pyramid, below like royalty. The duke wants to marry her and give her family an entire fortune in dowries for her sisters, and she has no suitors. She thinks she's going to be a spinster and she's okay with it. She can't turn down this opportunity for her family to finally be taken care of financially. She marries the Duke, and the Duke is Adam, and Adam is very incredibly grumpy, and he wants to marry because he needs an heir, or his family that he finds incredibly idiotic is going to take over his estate after he dies. And he's like, I can't have that. I need an heir, but nobody wants to marry me because he is big, scary, mean, and vicious, and people are scared of him. So he's like, well, I'll just marry a woman that has no idea who I am. And I love it. A lot of people are like iffy about this book because they don't like Adam, because he is a very aggressive person. You see his sweet nature lying beneath the surface and the trauma that led to him being the way he is. In the Gents series, there is a book where you get to see Adam as a child. The moment that his heart kind of is broken, his world is torn apart. I think that's going to be really impactful to read that and knowing how Adam was as an adult. Adam is actually like a teddy bear under the surface. He's just like the rough exterior. He doesn't want anybody to care, but don't get me wrong. He will pull out his guns and his sword and threaten you. He absolutely will, and he means it. But he's also a teddy bear. He's a teddy bear with a gun. Am I allowed to say that? That is Seeking Persephone. This is a whole series. This is the first book of the Lancaster series, but it does intertwine with the Jonquil Brothers series. So I will put on the screen here the official reading order for this series. This is just the Jonquil Brothers and the Lancaster family series intertwined. This does not include any of her other books, but these two series are connected and combined for a reason. I forgot to mention Seeking Persephone was just turned into a mini series that I still have not watched, but it is so incredibly popular. I just have a hard time sitting down and watching things, so I absolutely need to watch it, and I will at some point. If this book is super hard to find, or any Sarah M. Eden books are super hard to find, or they are backlisted, that is why. I bought from thrift books, I bought from eBay, I bought from Amazon's like used books. So just check all the places if you really want to read this, but also you can get it on your Kindle. The ebooks I think are like $4. You might be waiting at your library for a while to read her books because of the miniseries that just came out. They are worth the read. Anyway, the Jonquil Brothers series. So you will start with The Kiss of a Stranger. Again, it's going to be on that reading order that I just showed you, but The Kiss of a Stranger, you are following the Jonquil brothers' best friend and him and his marriage to his wife, and she is like a very timid woman and definitely had a lot of abuse in her past, and Crispin kind of comes in, he saves her. They get caught in a scandal. They get caught kissing in a garden. Because of that, he is forced to marry her. They are strangers when they meet. As he learns more about her, they fall in love, and it's just super adorable. Friends and Foes is the first official Jonquil brother that you're following. They are 6 brothers. Each book builds off of the last, and with this being interconnected with the Lancaster family series, by the last book of this series, every everything is supposed to come together. So I'm like dying for that last book. I'm not there yet. I am probably 7 books into this series reading order. In this book, you are following Philip, and Philip is the Earl of Lambton, I think, but he is secretly a spy. And you are following Sorrel, and she is a woman who has like a very severe leg injury. So there is like chronic pain representation in this book, which was just really interesting to read about. The way that the Earl cares for her is just so incredibly sweet. That is the Gents to the Lancaster to the John Quill interconnected series, but it doesn't stop there. It then goes into the Huntresses series. So this is the Best Laid Plans. Again, I will link Sarah M. Eden's website in the description box, like if you actually want to read through these in order. This, all I know about it is it follows the best friends family of the Lancaster. So I think the last book in the Lancaster family series, the girl's best friend, her family is what this series is about. So that'll just be really fun and another way to interconnect all of these Regency era romances. But we're still not done with Sarah M. Eden. I do have 2 of her standalone novels. I have Glimmer of Hope and For Elise. I read Glimmer of Hope, and this one was just really sad and heartbreaking. You're following Miranda and Carter, and Miranda and Carter got married, and then one day he just up and abandoned her, and so she has been living her life alone for years until later Carter comes back home, and you're unraveling the mystery of what happened between this couple, why they separated. It was definitely a very interesting read to kind of unravel and figure out the mystery of what happened between them, but I will say this one is very heartbreaking. And then I have For Elise. In the sprawling gardens of their neighboring estates, childhood friends Miles and Elise spent countless pleasant days together in the spirited adventures of youth. They were inseparable until Elise vanished without a trace. Miles searched, but Elise could not or would not be found. I'm just gonna stop there because that is like all the mystery and intrigue that I need to read for Elise. And the last Sarah M. Eden book that I have on my shelf is The Tides of Time. This is a storm tide romance. This is by that Proper Romance line. In 1793, a storm propels Lily forward through time, kindling a love that transcends the ages. I haven't read this, so I can't personally say like the level of the storytelling or whatever, but if you're somebody who's been wanting like an alternative option to Outlander, which I know is like a spicier book, this could be a good one for you to try because it has that time travel aspect and it's a romance. So this could be a good one to try if that sounds like it's your cup of tea. So that was a lot of books, and honestly, I'm just going to stop there for part 1 of my historical fiction bookshelf. I do have 2 more shelves I need to get through, but again, I'm just gonna slowly be making my way through this series. Every single book will be linked in the description box, and I will also tell you if they're available on Kindle Unlimited if you do have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I love historical fiction, and it's crazy because I used to think historical fiction meant boring, but within this last year, really, it's become my absolute favorite genre. I'm pretty much reading multiple historical fiction books a month. I've absolutely, like, #1, fallen in love with the Regency era, if that wasn't already very apparent. And I just love the swooniness that the genre has to offer. I love things that are just set that just feel like they are in a different time, in a different place, and there were different society things, and I love it. I love being transported back to that time and just learning all of the different things, but also just kicking my feet and giggling over these characters. If you made it this far in the video, could you please leave me an emoji of anything that seems historical to you? So it could be like a horse because there were lots of horse riders, or it can be a hat, or maybe just a ring because of the romance. Leave me any sort of emoji that just says historical to you. Please feel free to let me know if you read any of these books, what you thought of them, if I should read the ones that I haven't, or if I should just think about rehoming them. And if you read any favorite historical or Regency romances lately, let me know. I am all for the recommendations from you. Thanks so much for watching and supporting my channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you have an absolute blessed week, and I will see you next time. Bye!